Hello and welcome to another episode of Athletics for Life podcast. We're your hosts, Jeff and CD. Today we're going to interview Simon Roberts of Hong Kong Academy as we continue our Athletic Directors in Asia series.
Yeah, so we're going to sit down with Simon Roberts today. We're going from Seoul and we're flying straight down to Hong Kong. And then we're going up to the territories where Simon is with Hong Kong Academy. Simon is in the same ACAMIS sports division as we are here at the International School of Ulaanbaatar. Haven't seen Simon for a long time, face to face. So it's great to have him on Zoom today and to just check how he's doing over there and to learn how he's doing things at Hong Kong Academy and to see the differences between us, but also the similarities between us ADs. So we're very happy that we have Simon on the podcast today.
Let's go to Hong Kong.
Let's fly over to Hong Kong.
All right. Well, why don't we begin? Simon, if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about where you're from and how you got to where you're at now.
Yeah, sure. So I'm from a city in the north of England called Leeds. That's where I grew up. That's where I'd still consider home. And I went to university in Nottingham and graduated to become a PE teacher at a time when there were many graduating PE teachers and not many jobs. So I decided to leave and go traveling for a little while. And just luck of the draw, when I returned to the UK, there was a job going at my old high school where I went as a student. And fortunately, they still remembered me. So when I went in and introduced myself, some people remembered me, and just right place, right time, I ended up getting the job at where I was a student, which was fantastic. That was where I grew up. It was my community, and it really meant a lot to go back there. So I worked there in the PE department for 4 years as a teacher. And because I'd traveled previously, I knew I always wanted to try that international scene. So got a head of department job in Shanghai, worked in Shanghai for 4 years, leading a team of PE teachers, built a really successful sports program, and enjoyed building the sports program particularly. So when I learned there was an athletic director job in Hong Kong, I saw athletic director as a step forward professionally. So applied for this job in Hong Kong. Just turns out that Hong Kong Academy is in this wonderful part of the world up in Sai Kung in Hong Kong. So again, just felt very lucky. Right place, right time is what it felt like. And got the job in Hong Kong, moved here, started a family, and now I'm entering my third year here in Hong Kong.
It's interesting, Simon. We had Danny Clark, both known to us. We're in the same division on the podcast last year, and he's also from the UK. He's actually from Scotland. And we were talking about how do you get involved into the AD kind of role? Because from us, from UK, or Scotland, or Holland, we don't really have those kind of roles back home. How do you feel that transition went from PE, head of PE, into the AD role?
Yeah, it's very different. It looks like it might be a natural progression, and in many ways it is, but it's very different as well. So head of PE, it's all about academics and physical education, whereas athletic director is very much a whole school sports program view. So I thought there would be more similarities to what there actually are. Far more administration in the background in the athletic director role. But because it was a whole school leadership position, I did see it as a step forward professionally. And I was willing to kind of leave physical education to enter a whole school leadership thing.
So Simon, can you talk a little bit about the move from China to Hong Kong? Because I lived in China before and I've been in Hong Kong a lot of times. There's a lot of differences, but also similarities. How was your experience so far in Hong Kong?
It's very difficult to compare, to be honest. When I was in Shanghai, I was living right in the middle of the city, and the school campus was very central. So, the concrete jungle that is Shanghai, I was right in amongst it. And that was fantastic. But for my next move, I had like a little tick list, and kind of nature and outdoors was high on the agenda for my next move. And just complete luck of the draw that Hong Kong Academy is based in a part of Hong Kong, which is just surrounded by mountains, jungle, the ocean. So I've gone from middle of the city to now what's considered kind of the countryside of Hong Kong. I'm up by the national parks and right on the water. So it's really difficult to compare, my life and my job, because I'm just in two very, very different locations. There's similarities sometimes, when I travel to the island in Hong Kong, and it feels very much like the big cities that we know. But where I live, Sai Kung, up in the New Territories, that's where the school campus is here. It's just beautiful. It's nature, it's hikes and water sports, and it's an amazing part of the world.
That sounds awesome. That sounds kind of similar to my situation. Last year, a couple of years ago, I was able to live outside of town. For me, the school was not nearby, so I had to commute quite a bit. So that made it a little bit more of a challenge.
I've got a 12-minute walk to campus, or a 3-minute cycle, depends how fast I go.
Yeah, perfect. Just I'll talk a little bit about, now you've taken over the sports program at Hong Kong Academy. What is kind of your philosophy, and what do you hope the kids take away from being involved in your sports program?
Yeah, so we're very much an inclusive school, and the sports program mirrors that completely. All students are welcome to any of the activities they want to be part of. We don't hold tryouts. If a student wants to come and play, they are very, very welcome to come and play, no matter what their ability. And it's up to the coach to personalize the experience for all the students, the very competitive and the less competitive that just want to play for health and well-being. So that's something I really want to push with our sports program, is that every student feels very, very welcome to join any of our programs, no matter how experienced or able they are to do that. And the end goal, when they leave Hong Kong Academy, whether that's at 18 going to university or into the workplace, or they move somewhere else, before that they choose to remain active, that they've developed kind of good habits with us, that wherever they go next, those healthy lifestyle choices continue, whether that's, in the varsity basketball team at university, or they just choose to take part in a local gym. Whatever activity looks like for them, I hope we can inspire them to continue those healthy habits.
Can you talk a little bit about the sports that you offer at HKA, the conferences that you are in? What's the structure of the school, of the sports program like?
Yeah, so we're part of a local Hong Kong International School federation. So our regular competition is against the other big international schools in Hong Kong, which there are many. So there's various divisions and whatnot. So we're in the gold division, and despite being quite a small school numbers wise, we still manage to compete. We don't win everything, but we certainly win some things. And that's credit to, our students and some of the other programs we've got going on. Beyond Hong Kong, typically we would compete in SISAC, which is a middle school international sports, federation, I guess. There's 6 schools we work with, us being one of them, so five others from a range of places in the region. And then, of course, in the high school, we have ACAMIS, which is where I'm at you guys. And again, that's 5 other schools in our particular division. But of course, ACAMIS is much, much greater than that. So the other 5 schools are, yourself, up in Mongolia, the Nanjings, the Macaus, and so on and so forth. So we have a variety of, offerings, whether it's local Hong Kong or further afield. And this is, traditionally, it's not quite worked that way in the last 18 months. Hopefully that returns soon enough. So yeah, we've kind of got 3 angles with it. the international stuff and the local stuff.
Yeah, I always enjoy playing against you guys up in the various tournaments we've met you. Hong Kong Academy. I've really enjoyed the students and the coaches. They're good to have in our division, in the Orange division in ACAMIS. What are some of you've been there, and this is your start of your third year. It's been not easy for you with the impact of COVID. You haven't had a normal year, I can say, right? It hasn't been normal for one full year yet. What are some of the things that you have been able to implement from when you arrived into the programs?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bit of a whirlwind, to be honest. You know, when I came into the job, I inherited a very good sports program. The previous AD had been there for many, many years and established something really great. So I came into something already very good. The first 6 months was, you know, crazy busy. You can imagine, new to athletic director, new to Hong Kong. We were expecting, as a family, we were expecting a baby. So everything was new. And I was trying to establish myself in this new job with all the crazy things going on, you know, being an athletic director. And then all of a sudden, you know, COVID hit in, you know, January. So pretty much 6 months after I'd started the job, and everything changed, you know, and we've not returned since. So for 6 months of my job, it was very much normal, traditional. The last 18 months has been very, very different. So like many schools, we've had to reimagine many, many things. You know, we can only do certain things on campus. So we've really tried to focus on kind of in-house, you know, fun events. The students are screaming out to get active, you know, and competition is what, you know, drives a lot of students to commit to teams, because they want to be competing and they want to win and they want to do well. So when that's ripped out from underneath an entire sports program, it has been challenging to maintain motivation to keep coming. We've offered practices throughout the 18 months. When we've been on campus, we've still practiced as a team, even though we know we're not going to compete. So it's been challenging to kind of keep students motivated, try and make sessions fun, try and make sessions welcoming, so the kids keep coming and remain active. And I've said, look, when competition returns, and it will, you know, we can hit the ground running, because we're still going. We've still got our volleyball, basketball, soccer teams in place. We're still practicing every week. So when competition returns, we're ready.
That seems like a good bit of advice. We had another interview our last interview, and their kind of motto through COVID was, you know, just be ready. So that way, whenever you do have that opportunity to have some games, you can field a team. Your team's been practicing; they're in shape, and you know, like for us with volleyball last year, you know, we had a very small window where we could have a tournament, and you know, thankfully we were able to practice for a while. We had our tournament and then we shut down again. So definitely some good advice for this uncertain time.
Yeah, I mean, the competition is the business end of the program, isn't it? It's what
be a couple things that you're
a lot of students.
Sorry, Simon.
Yeah, pardon me. I was just saying that the competition is the one thing that really excites a lot of students. You know, they want to travel to these wonderful places and compete for their school. It's part of their school experience, you know, and we've had a lot of students graduate recently who've missed out on that opportunity the last 18 months, last 2 years. You know, we've got graduates now going to university who don't have the same stories as what their predecessors have.
Have you been able to do things in-house as far as maybe like inter-school competition, like just within your school, maybe like even staff student games, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, we've tried to be, you know, creative to some extent and get some form of competition in. So whether that's inter-house competitions or inter-team events. I got together a staff volleyball team, and we thought we were doing fantastic until the seniors destroyed us. But it was fun. You know, the students loved it, the staff loved it. It was a really nice community building, actually. So our sports programs evolved a little. You know, we have a greater emphasis on community and developing those areas. So when the competition returns, hopefully we're in a better place because of this.
Do you think things will change, Simon, once we are back to, let's say, normal? Things that we had before will never be the same again? Do you think that because I'm always wondering, like, when we starting normal again, are our kids different? Because the things that we worried about before, we're not going to worry about that now anymore. Do you see that for your school and in your students?
Yeah, I think I do. Returning to not like it'll be the new normal, returning to how it was. I don't think will be in the next few years. Think of it from a parent's perspective. Let's say the borders open and yes, we can go to compete in ACAMIS. Well, the uncertainty with travel and how restrictions seem to change and the rules change. Would you let your son or daughter travel to Shanghai for a tournament when there's that risk that, hang on, are they guaranteed to come back on that particular flight? There's quarantines and there's restrictions in place. So I imagine parents could be quite reluctant to say, yes, all right, go to Shanghai and go compete in the volleyball competition, because the risks now are far, far greater travel-wise. So keeping things in Hong Kong, as soon as we can compete in Hong Kong, I'd like to think the energy and the fun and the competition will return quickly, and this whole thing will be a distant memory sooner than later. I think when we get the green lights, I hope that very, very quickly things will feel normal again.
Yeah, we're in a similar situation because traveling down from Mongolia to China was already difficult for us, but it's going to be even harder. And yeah, we're in a similar situation where we have to think ahead. Like, what if we can go back? Do we still do that? What we did before? Have you been talking with the ADs in Hong Kong about what if and how?
Yeah, we have a group that are pretty tight, really. Everyone gets together. We have 4 meetings per year to discuss our local seasons, and within that we have various other ADs who are part of ACAMIS, who we've kind of discussed, a plan B. So if we can't travel for our basketball tournament, then let's have a ACAMIS Hong Kong alternative. The difficulty is every school seems to be in a slightly different situation, and depending on your campus and your location and your numbers, depends on many, many things. For example, if you can offer lunch on campus, you can have an afternoon academic program, and therefore you could potentially do sports. If you can't serve lunch on campus, then you have to leave in the morning, and therefore the sports programs are limited or non-existent. So we need enough schools to be offering sports programs to then allow for competition to return. But everyone's in a slightly different situation, it seems.
So as of now, when we're talking, what do you have planned so far for this year? Do you have any games that you're fairly confident are going to happen? Do you have travel of any sort, or are you just kind of playing by ear?
Yeah, a mixture of all those things, really. We have a few things lined up in Hong Kong. Couple of tennis events. We had a golf event not too long ago. So kind of we'd consider individual sports where distances can be managed better. They seem to be happening again. Golf, tennis, table tennis, badminton, things like that. The bigger team sports like the volleyball, basketball, and soccer, we're going to focus in-house for now. We've just, for our season 1, that's typically our volleyball season, and I've just invited all students to enter a team into a Hong Kong Academy Championship. Hopefully we can get the gym busy and students can choose their own teams and compete every week, and we'll have league tables and we'll have celebrations in assembly and we'll have fixtures and umpires and scoreboards, and we'll try and create a sporting event for all of our students, even though it's just in-house competition for now. So I'm actually quite excited that our season 1 volleyball will be successful. We've had fantastic sign-ups already from all of secondary school, from grade 6 all the way up to grade 12. So we should have, dozens of teams competing in-house. And like I say, I want to make an event of it. I want to be able to celebrate the winners, the competition, the MVPs, all the fun things about sport. We're going to try and replicate in-house.
So do the kids still talk about ACAMIS and stuff, or they just, that's something from the past, or because you seem to have a lot going on inside the school now?
We certainly still talk about it. We are hopeful, that those kind of events will return. Like many schools, we look at the holistic student. We want to provide them with, the academics, but also the experiences and the stories. When they leave Hong Kong Academy, we want them to say great things. And ACAMIS and SciSac and trips around the region to compete for their school. It's all about telling stories at the end. So we hope those stories can be told from our students, and that holistic educational experience comes back.
That's very interesting to hear that, because you seem to be able
Most
to do
memorable.
a lot. Sorry, CD.
Jeff. I'm cutting.
I
think I'm cutting in and out a little bit.
You do. That's okay. Simon, you seem to be able to do a lot inside the school. That's good, because can you talk a little bit about, if people are watching, about Hong Kong and in COVID there, the restrictions that you had to go through? In here in Mongolia, the government just says no to everything. It's pretty restricted. It's pretty hard to get things back going, even inside the school. Can you talk a little bit about COVID in Hong Kong and the impact on your programs in the school?
Yeah, so it's varied over time. We've had tight restrictions as well. We've been off campus for certain amounts of time as well. And then the whole program kind of, disappeared for those moments. But when we could return to campus, safely return to campus and abide by all of the guidelines and restrictions for our school, which might be slightly different to the school down the road, because you have to apply to the government to say, look, here's our campus, here's our numbers, here's what structures we will put in place to ensure safety for our students. And every school's in this slightly different situation. So, sometimes schools get a green light. Okay, you can return to full campus access, or half of your students can come in the morning, half can come in the afternoon, and a whole range of other kind of rules we're trying to abide by. So it's been difficult, and I feel like we're forever being reactive to those. What I plan for the next 8 weeks might be very different to what I planned for the 8 weeks thereafter, and certainly very different to what I was planning in April, May, June last school year. So I feel we're having to react, and it's very, very difficult. As an athletic director, of course, you're busy throughout the year, but there's certain moments in the year, in the calendar, where you're really busy because the new season's starting, or this event's happening, or you're hosting this and that. So I feel like I've been in that zone for the last 18 months because we're constantly trying to keep up, and be reactive and be creative and offer something. Well, that something has just changed so much that it's been really hard to manage.
So you are so it's different for every school. Just checking if I'm getting it right. So it's different for Hong Kong Academy as it is for Hong Kong International School, for example, or a local school.
It can be, yeah. Because campus sizes are different, locations are different, numbers are different. So every school's in its own slightly unique experience, and they have to submit their application to open up, and then the Education Bureau will come back and say, okay, under these restrictions, you can operate. We're very lucky. We're up in Sai Kung, up in the country park. So we've got a huge, wonderful campus, yet we're quite a small community school. So we could offer things that a small campus in the middle of Kowloon, which is really, really busy, they might not be able, they're not in the same situation as us.
Yeah, that seems pretty fair that they do that. Here it's totally different. Here it's one size fits all. It's just government says this, and then everybody has to, follow that. do the same things as a school with 40 kids in one class, and we have maybe 10 or 12. So that seems like a pretty good system over there.
Yeah, we certainly feel luckier than most. Even though we've had it tough in our own way, we're certainly one of the luckier schools. I feel still.
I'm just curious more on a personal level, Simon. With the added stress of COVID, it's more important than ever to have that healthy work-life balance. So what kind of stuff do you do to just keep your head on straight with that?
Yeah, well, luckily, when I arrived into Hong Kong, we were just embarking on starting a new family. So my partner arrived heavily pregnant, and our daughter was born the weekend of ACAMIS basketball in Shenzhen. I don't know if you remember that. So she was born that weekend, and pretty much the weekend after COVID hit. So my daughter, who is now 18 months old, has grounded me. Despite the stresses and pressures of work, having a young family, brings it all back as to what's really important. So I'm thankful to her to keep me where I should be, and that's at home and providing for those guys. I like to obviously be active. I play football on a weekend, so that's my weekend getaway. My partner, she plays hockey, so our kind of Monday to Friday is work. Our weekends tend to be sports. And our daughter's now, as she approaches 2, we can start pushing her into some of these kind of sports classes for toddlers, which will be really great fun. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, sorry for getting a podcast scheduled on a Saturday, Simon. I know you're a day with the family, but
well, you know what? Like they're still in quarantine at the moment. So if they were at home with me, I might not have been able to do this, but I've got a free Saturday morning because they're in quarantine.
In quarantine. What else? What do you do for your own personal development? Because this COVID period opened up a lot of, I can say, time for us. It's not as busy as we normally were as ADs. We started a podcast just to get a hobby and to interview people and learn. What are some things that you have done to improve your own professional development?
Yeah, I've tried to take on other responsibilities at school that aren't typically linked to an athletic director. I have, ambitions in the future to continue with my career and move up into leadership positions. And so I was looking, given we do have a little bit more time, but there's no competition, so we do have a bit more time. So I've kind of taken on a few other responsibilities. So my professional development as an athletic director, not so much. I haven't focused on that in the last 18 months. I've focused on what else can I offer around school so that as a professional, I broaden my kind of horizons. So an example, the personal project in the IB. So at the end of the MYP program, grade 10 students do a project for the year. So I'm coordinating that among a few other smaller things. So I'm still very busy, and I'm trying to kind of broaden what I'm offering to the school.
You say do you want to move out of the athletic director kind of position, Simon, or move into leadership?
I mean, who knows? I'm very happy for the moment. I'm more thinking, if in 5 years' time I wanted to start making these steps, well, you need to be proactive and you need to be planning for those things, beforehand. So if in 5 or 10 or 50, who knows? I just like to think that I have started the wheels in motion for the process, even though these might not be 5 or 10 years away.
Do you think the AD job has transferable skills to other leadership positions in schools? Do you think that's a good path forward?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's at least in my school, it's a whole school leadership position. It can be quite isolating at times. From a head of PE department, I had I was working with a team of teachers. Now, as an athletic director, I tend to be working across the whole school. So certainly, I'm part of meetings and conversations whole school-wise that I otherwise would not have been. So I've kind of seen other elements of how the school works, from finance to operations to the academics to marketing, all those things. So the meetings I'm part of and the conversations I'm contributing in are whole school issues and decisions. So certainly from Hong Kong Academy, the athletic director, it's a whole school thing, and therefore you're encouraged to work whole school with all departments.
Yeah, I feel like the athletic director position is a kind of a good stepping stone to get your feet wet in educational leadership. Because like you said, you're part of these meetings, you get a better picture of like the whole picture, right? Not just your PE class or your science class or your English class. You are involved in marketing for the school, interacting with the community a lot more than, just a normal class would. So yeah, definitely. I would agree that it's a good stepping stone for anyone who maybe has those aspirations that also, likes to work in sport. It could be a good stepping stone for those people.
Absolutely. And then if you're the leader of the physical education department, your major priority is improving physical education. Whereas the athletic director, because it's whole school, you are part of decisions that might compromise the quality of your sports program. But because it's a whole school issue and a bigger picture decision, you have to go with it, So it's sometimes difficult to be like, okay, that decision could limit the sports program, but I understand and I see it's needed, it's necessary for the whole school. So you're part of those things. So you have to take a balcony view, which is something we talk about at our place, like, step out and have a look and say, right, what is the big picture here? So the AD role is very much part of that.
Do you want to stay longer in Hong Kong, or do you have aspirations to go to a different country, or what's kind of your path in the next few years?
Yeah, I'm very happy here. My family's very happy here. The school's great, very supportive, and I feel like I've got unfinished business to some extent. I came into Hong Kong Academy to do a job, to make the sports program better. And for the last 18 months, I've been in a position where it's been very hard to do that. So, I hope things return to normal. I hope I can stay to be part of that process. So, in a few years' time, or whenever the time comes to leave Hong Kong, I can say, okay, I've had an impact. Given the last 18 months, it's very hard for me to say that right now.
Yeah, it's similar. I said I'm only leaving if I had a normal year and if I organized a big tournament, but I'm not sure when that's going to happen, Simon. So maybe I have to stay here in a long time.
That's it. You're staying forever.
You're staying forever. Man, yeah. So what is the kind of, if you look ahead and you had a normal year, and what's kind of the legacy or impact that you would like to leave Hong Kong Academy with? When would you be happy?
I have aspirations for Hong Kong Academy to be recognised as having the best sports program in Hong Kong. And that's tough because there's some big international schools in Hong Kong. But, we have the facilities, we have the location to be able to really offer an elite, really fantastic sports program. So that is the ambition, to not only offer one of the best, but to be recognised, for other international schools to maybe check in at Hong Kong Academy and say, let's take a look at what they're doing, because they're doing something right there. Their numbers, we want to be inclusive. We want to involve every single student somewhere. And I'd love it one day for Hong Kong Academy to be regarded as a leader, in sports programs. So other schools want to come and check in because we're doing such a great job.
I want to tap into that just a second. You'd mentioned it before that you're very inclusive and anyone who comes can play. That works awesome when you've got, 10 or 12 that come out and it's just the right number for a team. Do you ever have the issue where you have too many kids come out and then you're trying to find time to get them in games? And if you have, like, how do you keep those kids engaged?
Yeah, it's very challenging. We're still quite a small community school, so we haven't experienced many moments like that. I have in previous schools and previous jobs. And it's very, very hard. If you have 25 guys coming for the football team or the soccer team, how do you keep them all engaged? You have the competitive ones that want to be pushed and challenged. You have the less competitive ones that just want to come kind of because it's their friends and they want to be social and all of those things. So it's very, very challenging. If you're a coach by yourself and you've got big numbers, it's a wonderful problem to have. And excellent coaches have this way of, breaking things down, splitting the groups in half or into quarters and challenging them in different situations. It all depends on what resources you have and what facilities you have. And you can never get it perfectly right. It's very, very, very difficult to do. You don't want to upset the competitive ones, nor do you want to not welcome the less competitive ones. So it's a fine skill. But typically, what I've found is, the more inclusive and welcoming you are, the greater the numbers are, and you've got a wider pool to choose from. So actually, you can become more competitive if there's more people turning, competition for places and things like that. And we all have these moments where there's 3 or 4 students in the performance and therefore can't play in the game. If you've got students there ready to come in and step in, it's a fantastic problem to have.
How big is Hong Kong Academy? How many students do you have, Simon?
So we have around 500 students, but that's whole school. That's from 4 years old to 18 years old, So in our secondary school, it's typically 40 to 50 students per grade level. So for the SciSac competitions, we can look at grades 6, 7, 8. So we're looking at about 150 students whole school. And comparing that to some other big international schools, they have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of grades 6, 7, 8 students. So yeah, we're quite a small community school, 500 all in.
Wow. Yeah, that's similar to UCD, right? To the British school. Similar?
Yeah, I think we're just shy of 500, but it's very similar in numbers.
Yeah, we're a bit smaller. We're normally about 300. And like you said, I found that too. Once you start younger to get them enthusiastic for the game, then these high school teams will fill up easier once they're there. How do you do that, Simon, when you can only take 12 to a ACAMIS tournament? How do you do that? How do you tell some you can go and the others cannot go? How does that work?
Yeah, it's challenging conversations, isn't it? If you've got 16 students coming and competing for the 12 spots for the traveling team, I think being open and honest with all student athletes right from the beginning. So, you have to make the decision in 6 weeks' time. Well, everyone's welcome to come to the practices up until decision has to be made. And if you're open, honest, and have discussions with students and say, look, here's why on this occasion it might not be your time, still come and practice. Next year it might be your time, they're graduating, you're one of the younger students, so your time will come. Just keep coming to practice. And as long as they feel welcome to come and practice, then their time will come eventually. But yeah, certainly it's not nice to kind of have those discussions with students. But if you're open and honest and it's a process, you have conversations about these things, then, students get that. I think they appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely, Simon. We're not going to take too much of your time away. So a few more minutes. So we have a few more questions because it's interesting. How do you do that with? So this is your philosophy is very clear in your school's philosophy. I like that. How do you communicate that with your parents, with your students? You said you have to communicate with them about, hey, still come, work hard, and then you might make to the team or the travel team. How do you communicate your philosophy with your community?
Yeah, we have a really nice kind of community feel about our school. We have all sorts of events. You know, parents and students and faculty and staff very much feel part of the same team. It's a really nice community feeling we have. And because where we're located, many families live in the same areas. So everybody kind of knows everybody else. So communicating with people isn't difficult. And I feel we're on a level where everyone's open to have discussions, and they're very friendly discussions. You know, it's the kind of the gap between the teacher and the parent is quite narrow. You know, there's many connections that have been made, and that's credit to all the community building work that's happened in the past. I think parents feel very valued here, and these discussions that need to be had and you know, when we're making decisions on particular elements of the program, they're almost part of the process. You know, that they feel very involved.
That's interesting. We sometimes struggle to connect with the parents a bit here, but when we traveled to ACAMIS for the first time in our division, you brought so many parents from Hong Kong to the tournaments. I always was amazed to see that you had like who are all these parents here? They're coming from Hong Kong, and that was amazing.
Yeah, and that is perhaps a really great example of what I was trying to explain, that people feel very much part of Hong Kong Academy, whether you're a parent or a teacher or a leader, whatever your role within that community, it very much is that. And that's a great example. Wherever we travel, we tend to be the noisy bunch, because there's you know, up to a dozen parents traveling with us to come and support their students. They're supporting Hong Kong Academy because they're part of it.
Yeah, they were very noisy, I have to say. So sorry, parents.
That does remind me of kind of back in the States, you'd have that core group of parents that would always go to every tournament, every game. And that's something I do miss in the international setting is, you know, we haven't been able to get that here. You know, obviously now with COVID, you can't have spectators, but, you know, that's one thing that I would like to see improve for us, Jeff, in our tournaments, is just getting some more team spirit and that parent involvement.
You know, I think it'll come because people are missing this, right? You know, we saw this summer with the Olympics and the football tournaments in Europe, that as soon as we can go, you know, as soon as sport can return, it's been a huge hole, a huge gap in everybody's life, that when it does return, I think it's going to return big and very fast. So I'm sure there'll be many parents who are really keen to get straight involved, because, you know, you only miss something when it's gone, and sport hasn't been there. So when it returns, it'll return big.
Yeah, let's hope. Let's keep our fingers crossed, man, and we get some parents in the building here. Simon, two more questions. One more. What is your biggest kind of learning experience from these last 18 months? Your biggest takeaway from this whole experience?
Yeah, I think you don't have to do things that just because they were always done that way. You know, that when you suggest an idea or you put something on the table and it's met with, we've never done it like that before, like, embrace that. That's good. Okay, you've never done it like that before, so this might make it better. So being brave and open-minded enough to do things slightly differently. We've all been forced to do things differently, whether it's online learning or changing the rules of a game so people can actually play, you know, whatever it is, we've had to adapt and evolve and embrace that. That's okay. Things can only improve if you do it differently.
Just to kind of piggyback off that, you know, you just started your AD role at Hong Kong Academy. You've got some experience under your belt. What tips would you have for other athletic directors that are just starting out and trying to get into this role?
Give yourself a little time to really gauge what the community needs from a sports program. like I say, I was very lucky to inherit a very good sports program. So coming in and making changes took time, because things looked great. Wherever you look around the school, it's good, it's established, it's working well. It takes a little time to think, all right, what small changes can I make to make things better? And it is small things, but if you do small things often enough, they become bigger. So my first tip would be to don't be too hard on yourself immediately. Give yourself a little bit of time to settle in, figure out what the community needs, and try and make small changes.
I think you went to the right place for that, actually, because Hong Kong, a lot of good schools over there, probably good ADs. It's a bit easier to walk into a good program and have some good ideas around you that can help you and guide you and build your own programs.
Yes, certainly. In terms of modeling good practice, there's some very established colleagues here in Hong Kong. We've got sports programs and schools that have been going for generations, So coming in and being able to see what other schools are doing, and, you can copy things and change slight things here and there. But there's certainly a lot of role models in terms of sports programs here.
That's great. Simon, we want to thank you for being on the podcast today. It's always great to interview and to talk to people from all over the place, all over the world. We're going all over Asia right now to interview ADs, so it's great to see the different perspectives, but also we have so much in common. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, gents.
Yeah, appreciate it, Simon.
Okay, we just finished our interview with Simon Roberts, the Athletics Director for Hong Kong Academy. It was a while since I talked to Simon face to face, actually. It is on Zoom, but the last time I saw him was in 2019, November, for the volleyball tournament back in Nanjing. Times have changed. It's good to see him again. And it was a great interview, CD.
Yeah, it really stood out to me just how different things are. We have a lot of things in common with how COVID was handled, the requirements that we have to do. But for Simon in Hong Kong, I thought it was really amazing how the government talks to the individual schools and make sure each school is able to open. Something that I wish would happen here a little bit better. But it is what it is.
Yeah, it's great. I like that too, and they're very lucky up there, and they are very, I won't say isolated, but they are away from the busy city center, from Kowloon area. So they have a lot of more opportunities there. He's been very innovative with things that he's been offering inside the school for the kids itself. Virtual field days, school sports, kind of teacher-student games. So the kids have been active. That's very interesting to listen to, and keeps me wondering what we can do constantly. But it seems that he has a bit more freedom within the school building. You need that first in order to do things.
Yeah, I think our hands are a little bit tied at the moment with what we can and can't do in schools. But it doesn't mean that once things do open up and we can do those things, it's definitely good to keep that in mind.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
That we can do this sort of tournament, or just kind of make the most of what we are able to do.
Yeah, and he's been, what I found interesting too, being from the UK, and the path to an athletic director role is a bit different. It takes a bit more time. You go into PE first, and it's a bit different from people from that part of the world. It seems that he landed in a really good place to learn that, and it seems that he knows exactly what he wants. His career path. It's good to hear that. Hong Kong is a great place. A lot of knowledgeable ADs around him. I think that's very important. Again, for us, CD, it's more difficult being in a small country like Mongolia with less international schools, that you find those people around you that can help you grow in your profession.
Yeah, definitely. And I think jumping into a quality program helps too. Definitely. And it's obviously got its own set of challenges. As an athletic director, you often have your own vision and where you want to see the program. And sometimes we do want to come in and make sweeping changes, but it's good that he was able to identify that he doesn't need to make sweeping changes. He just needs to fix the little things. He said, fix little things, slowly make it better, kind of day by day.
Yeah, definitely. I've been fortunate here too that I had two great ADs before me at the international school here, which you just build upon. It's not that you change things drastically. You just make things step by step, little by little better, and you build up what they had before you. And Simon is doing that. I hope, fingers crossed, we can see each other face to face at a tournament in the near future. I'm not sure when that will be, but let's see how things unfold in the world and in ACAMIS, where we are both in the same division. The last tournament we had was in Shenzhen 2020 in January, which is a lifetime ago. Again, thank you, Simon, for your time today to share your experiences with us on the podcast. And it's always great to hear how much we have in common, but also how our situations are always different. So Simon, thank you again.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. And thanks also to anyone who's watching or listening. Make sure that you like and subscribe so that way you can get these straight to you when we release them. Catch you next time.
Definitely.
Sorry, Jeff.
Yes, we always want to ask you to share our videos with your colleagues, with ADs in your area. We need your support to share and to spread the word about Athletics for Life. So just share with people in your community, like and subscribe. Thank you so much.